Module 3 is related to the patient involvement in health technology assessment. In this module, you will learn about definition of patient, patient representatives, patient organizations, about patient involvement in different processes like in scoping process, PICO format, HTA process, early scientific consultation, horizon scanning, and voluntary cooperation at European level, appraisal process at national level. You will learn about different formats of patient involvement with examples, documents important for patient involvement at the European Union level, like guidelines and templates, conflict of interest process management and confidentiality, potential barriers of patient involvement in HTA, and capacity building. You can act as individual patient, as patient experts, as carers, as patient advocates, or patient organization representatives. So, if you are individual patients, you have a personal experience of living with the disease, may or may not have technical knowledge in research and development, regulatory or HTA processes, but the main rule is to contribute with subjective disease and treatment experience. On the other hand, patient experts, in addition to disease-specific expertise, have the technical knowledge in research and development, regulatory affairs, or HTA through training or experience. Carers are persons supporting individual patients such as family members, as well as paid or volunteer helpers. Patient advocates are persons who have the insight and experience in supporting a larger population of patients living with a specific disease and may or may not affiliate with a patient organization. And patient organization representatives are persons who are mandated to represent and express the collective views of patient organization on a specific issue or disease area. As patient, you can be involved in different HTA processes. For example, in HTA scientific consultation, which aim to minimize the risk that inadequate information from clinical trials are submitted at the later stage. Also, in so-called scoping process, PICO format, on which domains topic questions should be answered, which patients to benefit, which interventions, which comparators, or which relevant outcomes to consider. In the assessment process, joint at European level or assessment process at national level. And you need to answer related to questions important to impact of disease, your experience with currently available intervention, expectation of or requirements for new health technologies under assessment, and any additional information which the patient or caregiver believed would help to the HTA researchers. Also, you can comment on the draft reports. At the national level, you can be involved in appraisal process, making the decision to cover or reimburse of health technologies. In all these processes, you can be involved in different formats. For example, orally through interviews, written through answering the questions in the questionnaire, and also in focus group. You will see example later, but on UNETA Joint Actions website, you can see different HTA reports in which patients were involved on pharmaceuticals, on medical devices, as well during the pandemic COVID-19. At European level, Patient will be involved in joint clinical assessment and joint scientific consultation process. Within joint clinical assessment process, patient knowledge and experience of living with a specific disease or medical condition are important for HTA doers. Patient can help HTA doers to understand patient's unique perspective by collecting and presenting patients' and carers or caregivers' views and experience by engaging with a wide range of patients. The importance of describing advantages and disadvantages of health intervention based on patient experience and what patients value from a new intervention. In joint scientific consultation, based on information shared about the clinical development plan of health technology developers, what are the expectations and limitations for the current clinical trials proposed? You will be asked about current standard of care, comparator as current standard of care, specific group of patients to be considered, outcomes important to patient-reported outcomes, time schedule for patient-reported outcomes measure, and, for example, if the length of study adequate. Also, based on the information shared about the clinical development plan, would you participate in the current clinical trials proposed? During the UNETA joint actions 1, 2, and 3, different guidelines on patient and healthcare professional involvement are published, as well as templates for patient as external expert and patient organization for involvement in joint clinical assessment and joint scientific consultation are published, and these are examples of such templates. Similar templates will be provided for this work at European level according to the new HTA regulation, and such templates for patient and other experts are under development. There is important Commission implementing regulation related to the rules for the management of conflict of interest in the joint work, as well as declaration of confidentiality. Related to conflict of interest, patient, clinical experts, and other relevant experts participating in any joint work shall not have any financial or other interest in the health technology developers' industrial sector, which could affect independence or impartiality. Patient, clinical expert, and other relevant experts shall declare any financial and other interests relevant to the joint work in which they are due to participate. Such declaration and any actions taken as a result shall be recorded in the summary minutes of the meeting and in the documents of the joint work in question. But in exceptional cases, for example, for rare diseases, if no individual expert is free from conflict of interest, European Commission may propose appropriate involvement of such individual experts in the joint work, considering their conflict of interest. Related to declaration of confidentiality, patient, clinical experts, and other relevant experts involved in a joint work in any subgroup shall, even after their duties have ceased, be subject to a requirement of professional secrecy. So no confidential information will be shared with stakeholders during their involvement in the joint work. For example, you will need to provide a statement that you understand that your participation is completely confidential and that you may not share any information with anyone. This declaration of interest of representatives or individual experts shall be submitted digitally through HTA IT platform as set out in Annex 1 and shall be accompanied by a comprehensive curriculum vitae of the representative or of the individual experts based on the Europass CV template. This declaration of interest and curriculum vitae of patient involved in joint clinical assessment and joint scientific consultation shall not be made publicly available. In the Annex 1 of this implementing acts of management of conflict of interest, you will need to answer on different questions related to employment, consultancy, strategic advisory role, or any financial interest related to health technology developers of pharmaceuticals or medical devices. Related to financial interest, it is important to know that this question does not cover payments or reimbursement of expenses of a cumulative total value below 1,000 euro from one health technology developer over the past 3 years. Such interests are not to be declared. Also, you will need to answer questions related to principal investigator and investigator of clinical trials, about lead members in organizational institution receiving funding from health technology developers, of interest of immediate family members, and other relevant information. Also, one important Commission implementing regulation which set up procedural rules for the cooperation of the Member State Coordination Group on Health Technology Assessment with the European Medicine Agency in the form of exchanges of information related to joint clinical assessment of medicinal products and medical devices and in vitro medical devices, as well as joint scientific consultation on medicinal products and medical devices. So, information exchange related to the identification of individual experts in the context of joint clinical assessment and joint scientific consultation, specifically on request and where that information is available, the European Medicine Agency shall provide the HTA Secretariat with information on potential suitable individual expert to be proposed to the relevant subgroup as a patient, clinical expert, or other relevant expert in a joint clinical assessment or joint scientific consultation. Personal data that may be provided are limited to names, contact details, and areas of expertise of individual expert. It is important to know that personal data of patients involved in joint clinical assessment and joint clinical consultation shall not be published. In few slides, you will see examples of appropriate patient involvement during the UNETA joint actions and also during the pandemic of COVID-19. So in this example of one oncological drug as monotherapy for the first-line treatment of adult patient with LLT positive advanced non-small cell lung cancer, you will see that we involved one individual patient with recently diagnosed with LLT positive non-small cell lung cancer, treated for 4 weeks with crizotinib. And it was 1 hour telephone interview to provide input on the impact of the condition and on the most important endpoints. And in summary, patient emphasized life extension, fewer side effects, and importance of no financial implication for patient. In this health technology assessment related to the medical devices in patients with diabetes mellitus treated with insulin, there are different methods for patient involvement. One involving individual patient in focus group, and second involving patient organizations. So, adults, children, and parents with type 1 diabetes mellitus reported very positive experience with such medical devices, and such new innovative medical devices providing their life become easier and with better quality of life. Patients could see the glucose trends and could react properly. They pointed major emotional and social impact, changes in sleeping patterns, providing independence, and gave more control and contributed to a normal life. They pointed importance of education and motivation, and as most important barriers, they pointed high cost and unavailability of these medical devices in some countries. In this slide, you can see patient involvement in one rapid collaborative review related to the new drug for the treatment of COVID-19. Patient organization, individual patient, and informal caregivers were involved, and they stress negative impact of COVID-19 on quality of life, burden on carers, unpaid caregivers, and also negative impact on access and quality of health care. They all pointed the burden of prolonged symptoms currently known as long COVID. On these slides, you can see potential barriers of patient involvement in HTA in Central European countries, published in 2022. From the patient perspective, the most important barriers are lack of understanding decision context, lack of knowledge and guidance of evidence-based advocacy, lack of resources to be spent on meaningful patient representation, and lack of ethical guidelines for representatives. Related to lack of understanding decision context, patient representatives lack basic knowledge in HTA, lack of knowledge of the local regulatory process, including how they can get involved, lack of knowledge in the medical language, and also patient representatives do not speak or understand English, which can limit the amount of information they can access. Related to lack of knowledge and guidelines of evidence-based advocacy, in articles there's stressed that there are no methodological guidelines to support the activities of patient organization in collecting data valuable for HTA, and also patients' lack of experience in searching and interpreting information from independent resources like scientific articles. In relation to lack of resources to be spent on meaningful patient representation, there's no fair compensation for time offered and logistic issue. For example, for traveling time and cost, documents are not sent on time for review, preparatory calls or meetings during working hours, or general lack of capacities due to financial constraints. Related to lack of ethical guidance for representatives, there is no clear rules how to represent the patient community and how to distinguish it from representing their individual patient perspective, plus confidentiality that prevents patient representatives from discussing or sharing views with others before attending HTA procedures or meetings. As we already said, understanding this new European HTA regulation and potential for patient involvement is more critical than ever, and you should ensure that your participation is aligned with your values, needs, and the best interest of patients across Europe. So you need a knowledge, and because of that, capacity building of patients is of utmost importance for appropriate involvement in different HTA processes at European level, but also at national level. There are currently 2 European projects ongoing related to training of patients contributing to joint health technology activities at European level. One is this European project UCAPA, and the other is HTA for Patient European projects. Details you can find on websites, and UCAPA project will finish at the end of February this year, and the second project, European project, is currently ongoing. Thank you very much for listening.